Hi, I'm Miss Brenda and welcome to Fun Friday. Our story today is entitled Freddie the Penguin. Freddie the Penguin never had many friends and he couldn't fly. Anyone who was anyone down at Franklin J. Academy, Freddie's school, could fly. So all of the other birds would tease him and leave him out of the games. "Come on, guys, come play with me," he would say to them shyly. All of the other birds would erupt into laughs and insults. "Why don't you come play with us?" "Oh yeah, you can't fly," said Bobby Jay. Bobby was a very popular bird at the school. His grandfather, Franklin Jay, was the #1 fast-flying bird in the bird kingdom, and the school was named after him. "What a freak!" Nora the crow, who was not popular, just mean, yelled. Poor Freddie would walk away and play in the old sandbox as usual. Day after day, Freddie spent recess that way. Soon enough, half the year was gone by and he still had no friends. What a great way to start school, he thought. I wish I was like the others, but I have to be a stupid penguin. Freddie, too deep in thought to notice, ran into a girl in the hallway on the way to recess. "I'm sorry, that was my fault. I wasn't paying attention." "It's okay, probably my fault more than..." Freddie stopped mid-sentence. He hadn't looked up when he bumped into her, and looking closely, he realized he was talking to a penguin. The girl that he bumped into was another penguin. He soon found out that the new girl's name was Isabella. They became fast friends. He tried to act casual on the outside, but on the inside he was jumping and hollering, I have a friend, and she's a penguin." At recess, all the other birds were not only teasing Freddie, but Isabella too. Freddie stuck up for Isabella, knowing it was just as upsetting for her. Then he came up with an idea, something that might end this terrible bullying forever. "I have an idea," Freddie suddenly yelled. "What is it?" Isabella asked. "Come over here and I'll tell you my plan," he replied. They walked over to the sandbox and came up with an incredible plan. For the rest of recess, they gathered supplies and busied themselves with their project. That night, Isabella and Freddie met up to start experimenting on the idea. They were going to build a flying contraption, a real flying machine. How were they going to do it? They had absolutely no idea. The first try failed. Then the second try fell apart. And the third one didn't fit together correctly. They knew they couldn't give up. They decided to try one more time, and if it didn't work, they would try again the next day. On their fourth try, Freddie realized something. He would probably never be able to actually fly, but he could build something that would help him come close to flying. So they got new materials and drew a different blueprint. Freddie was sure it would work this time. They just had to get more creative. Isabella grabbed a pair of her sneakers and Freddie grabbed a pair of sneakers as well. Then they attached springs to the bottom so when they walked they would jump into the air. Next they gathered sticks and pencils and bits of fabric from the house and fashioned wing-shaped kites. And lastly they put straps on the kites for safety. The next day Freddie and Isabella arrived for school with their project and smiles on their faces. Ding dong! The recess bell rang and all the birds sprang out of their seats and out the door, but Isabella and Freddie made a stop to grab their flying contraptions. They exchanged excited looks as they half walked and half ran down the hallway. Once they were outside, they took the contraptions from out of their sacks and began to strap themselves in. "Are you sure it'll work?" Isabella asked. "Of course," Freddie exclaimed. After securing themselves in tightly, they began to run, and after a moment, they began to flap the wings strapped to their arms. Then they were flying. It felt as if they were soaring through the air. "This is amazing!" Freddie and Isabella exclaimed in unison. All the other birds were flabbergasted. Their mouths fell open and stayed that way all of recess. They were surprised when they saw what he had created. Freddie was living his dream, having the time of his life. "The bell rang, Freddie. We should get down now," Isabel said. "No, you go. I will stay a while," he replied. He stayed there for what seemed like days, flying through the air. He pinched himself on the arm to make sure it wasn't a dream. Of course, Freddie loved flying, but he realized that he loved being himself even more. He became happy with himself and his unique characteristics. Being like the other birds was not his goal anymore. Can a blue jay slide on ice? Can a crow dive into freezing cold water? Freddie could do all these things and more. He was proud to be a penguin. I hope you enjoyed the story today, and if you did, that you'll share it with your family and friends. And remember, when you support the Children's Hope Foundation, you make it possible for children in our community to get the specialized medical care that they so desperately need. Thanks again for joining. See you next week for another Fun Friday.